Assalamu alaikum. This is all of the things that I genuinely consider when planning a home education curriculum. So if we look at personalized education, and I have to sort of explain the concept of what we require from personalized education. Personalized education is one of those things where it's individualized up to the notion of the child and is what the child actually needs every day. So what I tend to start with is we sit down together and we have a meeting and we go out and we will have a coffee and then lunch. And I do this with each individual child so that they have the ability to be 100% involved in their education. So midway through the year, I can say to them, well, we sat down, we had this conversation, so we're going to slightly push through as to what you want to do. So we're going to identify learning objectives. What is it they would like to learn? And we look at these in short-term parts. So we look short-term, and we also look at long-term learning, which I guess, and then we do consider mid-term, because we also need to look at our mid-term goals to decide what they want to do. And we also fit their extracurricular activities around that. You need to have a knowledge base. And we call it a know base, but it's a knowledge base. And it's the idea of assessing or understanding what their prior knowledge and skills are. I found when I used to teach in classrooms, the children who got bored and played up the most were actually the children who knew what was going on prior to the lesson starting. So you have to understand whether that child already has that knowledge base, so you're not teaching it and wasting time, because as home editors, that's one thing we don't like to do, is to waste time. And then we also need to know learning style or learning preferences. If your child is coming out of school, you could, if you have a good relationship with the school, ask them to help you with that slight bit of what was their learning style, what was their learning preferences. And if you weren't doing much work at home, someone would be helped. So this is the sort of things of, do they prefer hands-on learning? And then if it is hands-on learning, you've got to look at, how can I teach a particular subject or facilitate learning of a particular subject with hands-on experience? Or are they the sorts of person that if they listen to it enough times, they will understand it? Or is it a person that, would your child be okay with worksheets? Is worksheet after worksheet really going to work? Which means, okay, do I need a subscription of some sort? So a long-term subscription like teachers pay teachers, or looking at the TESS website, for instance, or if it's hands-on learning, am I buying it as a set? Am I making it, or am I partly making? So what I tend to do is things like, and I can give you an example for this. So things like a microscope. So microscopes in general come with a certain amount of slides, but you can buy additional slides. You can, once you've bought the additional slides, buy the die, so prep work for slides. And then that could be used for a multitude of things, like looking at blood and the movement of cells and all of that sort of great stuff underneath a microscope, alongside the preloaded slides. And you can say to them, what was the process to preserve the ones that are preloaded that may not work with ours? This is where then, once you've got your preferences will then tell you a selection of content. So you've done all of the meeting, you've done all the meet and greet, you've sat down with your particular child, you've decided what they want to learn for the year, and now we are looking at resources. But then when I say for your resources, I always say someone should put in a firm budget. And I'm going to put the word firm here. Don't overextend your family finances to buy everything that's flashy on the market when you could get it cheaper. So if your resources is a book, for instance, why not try the world of books? If you would like to keep the resource, or visit your local library. Don't underestimate the library, because sometimes your local library may have a budget for books that they need to use and they don't know which books that they want to buy. So you could ask for a specific book and they will purchase it and put it on the shelf for you. Or you could do the other way around, which is purchase a book and use it. And then once you have decided you no longer want to use it, donate it to your local library. We have to look textbooks. You can buy those secondhand on most home ed groups. We've got online courses if you've got older children who may require an online course, or if you are needing an Arabic course or a religious studies course and you're not very clued up on that subject, go for that. You can also get videos. You have to look at if there was something that caught your eye, something like a recent article, and then interactive activity. And I've decided as I go through this, I'm going to pull you along with me planning for my 8-year-old, and then in a month or two after Ramadan, planning for my 10-year-old, and then we'll circle back and plan for the one that's going to be 7 soon, because he needs a curriculum. So we'll have all of that good stuff on here for you guys to use. And then seeing as I teach Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 4, I will do mock ones for a Key Stage 4 student, because my 10-year-old is a mixture of Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 4. So we'll go through all of that. Once we've done all of this, the next stage is for you to organize. And you've got to, in your organization, you've got your resources, you know what you're using. Mine then comes with the idea of real world experience, because we like to travel. That is why our academic year is shorter than most. So we have wheel, travel. So then we could have, you could include things like case studies. So if you're studying something like law, for instance, or medical cases, we tend to pull case studies. Which projects are you going to do here? There's the obvious ones, such as like the space mobile and the idea of the bee, or going through the Quran or your religious text, if you have one, looking at how you could adapt and look at your faith-based or non-faith-based lifestyle and how that works with their home ed if you are doing it in this way. We have some idea of practical exercises, building circuits, for instance. If they want to build a circuit, you could buy all of the pieces separately. You could buy a kit. So we have our practical exercises, and I'm writing everything down so that you can at least at the end of it take a screenshot, so you've got all of it on paper and print it out to make all of their learning relevant. But the reason why all of this is necessary to organize, but then also for all of the real world stuff, is so that it's embedded knowledge. And it means that they can apply the concept. So it's not abstract. That's part of the problems that most of us have with school, is that school is rather abstract in its knowledge. I'm missing an S here. Subscriptions. And then we have, how flexible can you be? We want to teach the subject. We want them to learn the subject, but then we also know that we could have slight problems. So we need to adjust this to pace. We used to work all year round, but just slower. But now that my children are growing up, sort of, um, they are more happy with an intense program followed by passion projects. Um, and so we facilitate that because passion projects can be done while we're traveling. Flexibility and choice. And then also what people don't factor in is a pause. And it's not a pause where you're not learning anymore or you're not doing anything. That pause is for depth. If you get to a point where your child wants to dive further, pause the curriculum and let them do it. And this is for them to pursue their area of interest because some kids, especially children coming out of school, sometimes don't really know what they want to do. So if they are now stuck on a topic and they know what they want to do, let them run with it, exhaust it. And you'll find that a lot of the other learning that you may have had planned will just automatically be part of that. When we do this bit, our objectives, this is the idea of setting our milestones. And we can do this with life skills also. Like I'm teaching mine to sew. One is learning embroidery. Setting goals and milestones, but then you also have to look at how are you going to assess this? Because your assessment idea is for the stuff that goes onto your home education portfolio for it to go off to the LEA for your report. If your assessment is a project, you may have things like projects that go on in here and presentations or presentation. Because we all know the ability to know something is the ability to achieve it. But then also when we've got this flexibility, we could also do a race ahead. If they get to a point where, say, for instance, you've taught or they've learned 2, 3, 4 times tables, your child may automatically be able to double. So they may also have learned their 8 and their 4s, their 8s, and their 12s. So you don't actually need to go onto that. You could skip that and go straight onto things like squared numbers and cube numbers, just for the fun of life. I would always say to you, have some feedback. Like talk to other moms, talk to other home educating parents. So you've got feedback and support. Our support network is actually quite intense. It's actually quite good. So we love to talk to other people, talk to others, see what's on offer, socialize. So this is where you would find your social aspects. What's going on today? Are they going to, I don't know, to the gym? Are they going to do trampolining? Are they going to do ice skating? What are they going to do? So you're factoring in all of their extracurricular here. Once you've factored in all of their extracurricular, just think about how positive you can make this as much as possible. So even the feedback and support, it may not be feedback and support from other adults, it may be feedback and support from your children. So that check-in, those constant small check-ins that we can do that school doesn't really have the ability to do, we can do that. You can ask your child what's working. And you question, is it working well? If it's not working well, have the ability to pivot. Don't be banging your head against a brick wall. And then we also have the idea of review, the concept, and that could be done simply by questions or a conversation. But you may also get those conversations where you just have a light bulb moment. Those are the best because you get to see them in real time. You don't get someone telling you about them later on after it's happened. If they've suddenly developed a new skill, so you can review and reward them for their new developments. And then you've also got to factor in the change in the learner's goals. So you're changing your students' goals. Have they decided that no, I no longer want to be a lumberjack, I now want to be a scientist? So scour your local, I'll add in here charity shops. Add in your local charity shops for, I don't know, lab coats. I have a thing about lab coats. All of mine have lab coats, even down to the toddler has a lab coat. So you've also got to think about things like that. And how are you incorporating things like science, maths, engineering, and technology? Most of our children are born with the ability to use a computer. So they have the tech idea of it. So if you're thinking about this, when you're talking about online courses, the most common ones at the moment are math online courses. And then you have a lot of coding courses coming up. But check your local home ed group and see what everyone else is doing first before you invest in something. At least then you're getting a real life review. If someone's not particularly enjoying something, ask them why they're not enjoying it, or why they need to change resources, or where they got their resources from. But we will be doing a procurement idea on this platform. And also don't forget things like when you're looking at resources, factor in things like pens and pencils. Because if you have a firm budget, forget pens, pencils, rulers, sharpeners, and erasers, and then all of a sudden you've got to do a huge batch of all of those, it does start to add up and encroach on other things in your family, such as trips and holidays and things. So this is Dr. Rachel Sarah Lewis signing out. Assalamu alaikum.